Welcome back, folks, to Hashtag AskGSM, the weekly Monday Mailbag video where I answer your question from YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter right here in this video forum. And today we are celebrating the monumental, historic 50th edition of Hashtag AskGSM right here on YouTube. For that, guys, I very much appreciate it. I thank you all for all the support, for sending in the questions, for liking, subscribing. I'll go a little more in-depth a little later on in the video about how all of this came about and the history of this show. But to kick it off, though, I just want to say thank you for all the support over the last year and a half since I first started doing this show. So with all that being said, we'll get into it right now, kicking it off with the questions. We've got Justin G, handful of questions from him from Facebook. First question was, on a pay-per-view basis, the WWE has been screwing us over with not going into detail about their stage for pay-per-view events. Do you think that the pay-per-views going to the network and made the WWE think that held creativeness for the stages for pay-per-views? So basically what Justin is saying, that because they've gone to the network, with the pay-per-views now exclusively on the network, and of course, with other pay-per-view platforms and whatever else, whatever pay-per-view distributors are still actually offering the pay-per-views, I'm not exactly sure anymore. I don't even know why you would order on a pay-per-view if it's only $9.99, but nevertheless, it's not the network's fault per se. It actually kind of is. It's due to the fact the budget is so tight right now. Obviously, they've been cutting costs for a number of months, dating back to May of this past year, when the new deal was announced, and it was not what they were hoping it was going to be, so they've had to cut a lot of costs with all the releases. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it here on the show before, but yes, I am disappointed with the lack of special pay-per-view stages, which we're known to love over the last couple of years. Over the last, 10 years or so, since the start of pay-per-views, we've always gotten awesome pay-per-view platforms, like the Hell in a Cell stage that we used to get. I don't know if they did it last year, but I know they used to have like a mock cell around the stage, which was always awesome. When it wasn't on the show last night as I filmed this, I wasn't surprised. We haven't gotten a special pay-per-view stage in quite some time. So like I said, I'm not surprised. It doesn't really even register anymore when we get to these new pay-per-views. But that being said, though, it does still suck. I don't know when they'll go back to using special stages. Hopefully when they can break even with the network, which I don't know if they've done yet. I'm not exactly sure on that front. But when all this budget bullshit is all over with, hopefully they can go back to using special pay-per-view stages for all of their pay-per-views and not just WrestleMania. I don't even know if they did it for SummerSlam. I know they did it for WrestleMania. They always have to. It's WrestleMania. It's fucking WrestleMania. They have to. But for all the other pay-per-views, including SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, I know they haven't in a while. So hopefully they go back to doing that when all this clears up, hopefully in the near future. The second question was, come the Hall of Fame time, the WWE tended to start a Celebrity Hall of Fame wing with the induction of Drew Carey. I think it went back a little further than that. I think it actually first started with Pete Rose in 2004. It wasn't official back then, but I think he was the first celebrity inductee. Correct me if I'm wrong. But his question was, do you think celebs like Maria Menounos and Bob Barker might be inducted in the Celebrity Hall of Fame for their minor appearances for the company? Of those two, Maria Menounos would probably go over Bob Barker. Granted, Bob Barker's one appearance on that episode of Raw in the Labor Day episode in 2009 was much better, was 10 times better than any other appearance Maria Menounos on WWE combined. And she's been on the show maybe 4 or 5 times. She inducted Bob Backlund into the Hall of Fame. I know they're very good friends in real life. She's competed at WrestleMania. She was at WrestleMania 28. She was at WrestleMania 30, maybe as a host or something, maybe for one of the other WrestleManias, maybe 29. She's done a whole bunch of stuff. She was at SummerSlam this past year. She's wrestled on Raw a couple of times, so tribute to the troops. She's done a lot for the company. I would not be surprised if they induct her one day. Maybe not at WrestleMania 31. That's probably a little too soon. I know the Celebrity Hall of Fame wing is a joke. I understand. I know a lot of people see it that way as well. But it is what it is. It's a good way for WWE to get some publicity. I know they've inducted, Mr. T, Mike Tyson. Those guys make sense because they played a much bigger role in the company than just a few appearances here and there like Maria Menounos. I wouldn't be surprised if Maria Menounos got inducted. I want to see Bob Barker inducted based off of his qualifications alone for one appearance and earning a Slammy Award that same year for Best Raw Guest Host. Doesn't necessarily qualify him for being a Hall of Famer, but then again, Bob Uecker was at maybe 1, maybe 2 WrestleManias in like 4 and 5 as a backstage interviewer, and that was it, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Drew fucking Carey was in the Royal Rumble spot once, so I guess you can make a case for Bob Barker in that sense. Cody C, his question was from Facebook. What did you think about Bray Wyatt attacking Dean Ambrose last night at Hell in a Cell? And where do you think this leaves Luke Harper and Eric Rowan? So I'm going to get into this on WrestleRant Radio this week. I can go in depth of this for hours. but a lot of people hated the Hell in a Cell finish. I can see why. I understand that. I respect their opinion. I personally, and don't trash me for just getting my opinion here, I thought it was fine, especially since Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt should be a great feud. I know we said the same thing about Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho. That whole thing was poorly booked. On paper, I'll say this, Bray Wyatt versus Dean Ambrose on paper could be a great feud. They both have amazing mic skills. They can go in the ring. They can have some very good matches. The psychotic nature of both guys. I was hoping for this match to happen at WrestleMania, but the fact that we're getting it earlier is great. At least we get Wyatt back on TV. They even replaced, like, at the end of the Wyatt family vignettes, you see Eric, not Luke Harper, it's Eric Rowan with the sheep mask on for like a brief second. Now it's changed to Bray Wyatt. So I do think that the Wyatt family, as of last night, is officially broken up. We'll find out tonight on Raw for sure. But I'm fine with it. I think the feud should be great. The finish to Hell in a Cell. I know people always bitch and moan about the interference in Hell in a Cell, myself included. I'm not excluding myself from that. But I'm fine with it. Like the hokey bullshit with the hologram, all that kind of stuff. I do agree that was kind of dumb. But I am fine with that because on paper, Ambrose and Wyatt can have a great feud. And Rollins and Ambrose, that feud will go on for years on end. You can take my fucking word for that. I know a lot of people don't agree with this comparison, but I personally think it's the new Triple H versus Shawn Michaels. And I'm not comparing either of those guys to them. I'm not saying Dean Ambrose is the next Triple H. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that their feud will reminisce a lot like Triple H and Shawn Michaels will. It will. There's going to be a lot of similarities. I'm even writing an article on it as we speak, and it's going to be up on What Culture within the next week or so. And you can kind of read on it more then. But Ambrose and Rollins. Ambrose is going to get his win back over Rollins at some point, so let's not complain about that. I'm pretty sure that feud will wrap up at some point, maybe even on a bigger stage such as WrestleMania and not fucking Hell in a Cell pay-per-view people don't really care about. So next question, Jared J. Okay, this kind of ties into the last question. How the fuck is having Dean Ambrose lose 3 straight to Seth Rollins a good idea in any way? Like I just said, it's not the end of the feud. And I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming anyone who didn't like the finish. If you didn't like the finish, that's okay. There's a lot of people that didn't like it for different reasons. Some people didn't like it for the hokey nature of it with the hologram. I understand that. Some people said they didn't like it for the interference. I understand that. It's the whole point of Hell in a Cell in the first place. Thankfully, it wasn't from the Authority, and Kane had fucking one spot, so at least it wasn't Triple H coming in the cell. All that kind of garbage like last year. Like, that was annoying. A lot of people said they didn't like it because... I'm trying to think. Because Seth Rollins went over. I said this last week when I was making my prediction, but... I mean, like I said before, no guy really loses anything. I mean, I do agree that Ambrose has a little more to lose than Seth Rollins because Rollins still has that briefcase in the championship match. But I am completely content with this because the same thing happened with Daniel Bryan. I was pissed then, but looking back on it now, myself included, we all probably shouldn't have been because it ended to bigger and better things. I know that was not the initial plan for Daniel Bryan to be in the main event of WrestleMania 30, and that kind of just happened by circumstance with CM Punk leaving the company. But in the end, it all worked out, and we can look back on it now and say all those losses early on in late 2013 were worth it. The way they were booked were garbage, while the Authority interference, and I'll get to that. I think someone else asked that question a little later on. But I do think that Ambrose and Rollins will continue their feud, not like right after Survivor Series or whatever else, but even people were saying as of last week, I've been enjoying the hell out of this feud between Ambrose and Rollins. But you got to give them some time to breathe. Don't, keep this feud going by having Ambrose win here and then maybe not even end it, but continue to do it. I don't think that's the smartest move. It will get old very, very quickly, especially after all the attempted comedy that Ambrose tried to do. I don't blame him. I blame creative for giving him that shitty material. But like I said before, it's like the new Triple H and Shawn Michaels of this generation. And don't give me that shit that it was a multi-man match when, like when Michaels won. Yes, he won their first match at SummerSlam 02, but they would go on to face each other how many times over the next 2 fucking years? These two have been feuding, Ambrose and Rollins, for only maybe 6 months, 5 or 6 months. We can't say as of right now. Come back to me in 2017, and then we'll talk about how the feud went. But I know Ambrose won Rollins won at SummerSlam, the next night on Raw, Hell in a Cell. It prolongs that victory for Dean Ambrose. The longer they have him wait out, that victory out, the more it'll mean. Maybe some people disagree with me. I understand that. That's fine. My philosophy is that the longer they wait, the more it'll mean. So at some point, it's going to get fucking old. Like Rollins, okay, he keeps on winning. Like, this is ridiculous. Like with Raven and Tommy Dreamer, I don't know if I could have gone years on end with Raven winning every single match. I wasn't an ECW fan back in the day. I wasn't even fucking alive back when ECW was in its prime for the most part. I was born in '95, but even, you know what I mean. But even still, though, I do think that Ambrose will get that win back. And like I said on Twitter earlier today, maybe even on a bigger stage, such as WrestleMania 31. Maybe they reignite that rivalry in time for that show, or WrestleMania 32, or SummerSlam, or whatever. In the end, it'll mean something. So like the famous slogan current nowadays goes, keep calm, everything will be fine with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose doesn't lose anything. It's okay. He's not damaged beyond belief. He'll be fine. Next question. Paul S. His question was, is Dean Ambrose delusional anti-hero character more of a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Mick Foley? Good question. I'd go with more with a Stone Cold. It's obviously a hybrid of both, not just those two guys. It obviously all goes back to Rowdy Roddy Piper, Brian Pillman, and he says, I don't want to be a repeat of any of those guys. I mean, he's been watching wrestling his whole life, so like he said in the interview with Sam Roberts not too long ago, that it is very likely that having grown up and watched these guys, he will incorporate, maybe not even intentionally, he will incorporate different aspects of all these different characters that he loved and idolized while growing up into his own persona. So I understand that, but between Mick Foley, I mean, he's definitely crazy like Mick Foley, like with all the spots that he does and all that kind of stuff. But I'd have to go with more a Stone Cold Steve Austin, like Punk was a couple years ago, and then he was very anti-authority, very good mic skills. He's kind of like that wildfire, like the wild card that really no one knows what he's going to do. So I'd have to go with more Stone Cold, but obviously Mick Foley's in there a little bit as well. And that's why I thought their rivalry a couple years ago over social media was so entertaining. I didn't know much about Dean Ambrose at that time, but you got to admit that would have been a kick-ass match if that eventually happened. I know Mick Foley had to retire. He was in no shape to perform at that point in time in his career, and he is in no shape now. I think he's pretty much done. It's pretty likely, pretty much confirmed they will never see Mick Foley in another WWE ring for a match again, but that could have been a great match, looking back on it all these years later. Paul's second question was, I just saw a trailer for a new promotion called Lucha Underground where ex-TNA and WWE stars are now signed on with. One particular star is John Morrison, now going by the name of Johnny Mundo. How long do you think this promotion will fare? And will it be able to compete with the big ones like TNA, Ring of Honor, and the giant WWE? I don't think it's going to become like a new ROH or anything like that. I think it's a nice, fun little promotion. I don't think it's going to become on the level. I mean, TNA, I know WWE's here, and TNA's like, I'm not even going to put it on the bottom of the screen because it's so far off. I know, like, financially, they're so completely different animals. But even still, though, I think Lucha Underground is a nice place for, like you said, these ex-TNA and WWE stars to go, have a nice little run, have some great matches. I've heard some good things about it. I know they have their own original stars as well. So I don't think it's going to grow into its own company. If anything, I think Global Force Wrestling might be something to look on the horizon for with all the stars that are signed on with that promotion, with Jeff Jarrett and all these other TV deals. Global Force Wrestling has a bigger chance of making a splash than Lucha Underground. I could be wrong. We still have no idea if this company, GFW or GWF, I guess, Global Force Wrestling, is going to land a TV deal. They have yet to announce it. In America, that is. So we'll have to wait and see. But it should be a little fun promotion. Hopefully I can check it out at some point. I don't really have the time to check it on a weekly basis. I could do ROH, unfortunately. But hopefully I can check out some snippets of it eventually when they have their next show. Paul S.'s next question was, is Cesaro already pushed to punished? So I don't know if you're asking if I already analyzed him in the series. I don't think I did, because I was almost going to about a year or so ago in the summer of 2013, after he lost the United States Championship, and he was losing on a fucking weekly basis. But then he was paired up with Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter, and he was part of the Real American, so I didn't really think the timing was good. So no, I have yet to analyze him in that series, if that's what your question is. If your question is he being pushed to be punished? Cesaro's definitely not being punished. I don't think he ever did anything to receive the treatment. I mean, he's better off right now than he was, 4 or 5 months ago when he was losing every single week. At least now he's in a substantial program with either Sheamus or Ziggler. Yes, he's losing every title match he's a part of, but at least he's having great matches. He's given the opportunity to have great matches on TV and on pay-per-view, unlike a few months ago when he was losing every single week for no reason. So, I mean, he's still not in the greatest position, and yes, he should be pushed, but I don't at all think he's being punished, if that's what your question was. And his fourth and final question was, do you think it would be wise if NXT would also have their own Money in the Bank ladder match? No. I think the only thing special about that match is that it happens once a year for the main roster guys. there's not even, I mean, there's a lot of awesome talent, obviously, in NXT, but the thing is with that is that they're all up-and-comers. There's really not enough. Like, if you wanted to do a 7 or 8 man, maybe even a 6 man, I don't even know if you could do it. Like, you take all their top stars and put it into one matchup. I mean, I don't even think. Oh, we actually did see a ladder match in NXT on Arrival, earlier this year with Bo Dallas and Adrian Neville. But no, I think it's a thing that should stay exclusive to the main roster. Maybe you can make up their own kind of match concept. Make it exclusive to NXT. But what's special about the Money in the Bank thing is that it's a main roster thing. Maybe you can make it work. I would love to see the likes of Kevin Steen, Prince Devitt, Kenta, aka Hideo Itami, in a ladder match in NXT. That'd be fucking amazing. But I don't think the concept really needs anything, needs to be in NXT, especially since I know you have a year to. I mean, if we take those same rules of the main roster Money in the Bank ladder match and apply them to NXT, you have a year to cash in this contract. But I mean, that same performer in NXT may not even be there come a year. I mean, things happen so frequently, like people just being called up out of nowhere, like Paige and Rusev, like, oh, didn't see that coming. Like they're in developmental for such a short period of time that it's not really worth it. And what I like about NXT is that there's not title matches in every single fucking show. They usually save them for all the specials. I know they have a title match here and there on TV, but I don't have to worry about spoilers because nothing ever big happens on NXT. But that's what I like about it. There's no title changing hands all the time, and you can wait until the specials to build that up. And NXT on its own, without any of these big monumental moments, is still very fun to watch because it's an hour-long program. But no, I don't think they need their own version of the Money in the Bank ladder match. Maybe some other kind of concept for NXT exclusive stars, but they don't need the Money in the Bank ladder match on NXT. Andre G, his question was, who do you think Jeff Jarrett will place as the face of his company, Global Force Wrestling, and should he go with a fresh face or a familiar face, a fresh guy or a familiar face? Good question. In the beginning of the early stages of this promotion, probably go with a familiar face. Definitely don't put him as the star of his own company like he did in TNA early on. Jeff Jarrett, I agree with the masses, is overrated. He's a very good talent, but I don't think he deserved as many world title reigns as he got in WCW and TNA, putting himself all over the fucking program. I like Jeff Jarrett. I just don't like the fact that he is overrated. I do agree with the masses and the general consensus on that. But, so no, I don't think, especially at this point in his career, being 40-something years old, should not be the face of his own promotion. As a promoter, sure. As a wrestler, as a top world champion, no. Yes, but he should, in the beginning, go with a familiar face. I know early on in TNA, like, they went with, not Sting, but he did go with himself, Jeff Jarrett. They picked up a lot of old WWE guys, a lot of NWA guys, before building up. Like, AJ Styles wasn't a top star off the bat. He became the TNA guy over time, and going from the tag team scene to the X Division scene, or vice versa, to the world title scene. So it's going to take some time if they want to have an original face as the face of their company. It's going to take time, wherever this company goes. I mean, this is all assuming it all goes well. But his next question was, do you think the WWE will allow Sarah Del Rey to make her debut on TV? No, I think the whole reason why they brought her in the first place was to be a trainer for NXT. Would I want to see her on a WWE, on Raw or SmackDown competing against the likes of AJ Lee and Paige and Emma? Absolutely. I think she's one of the best, if not the single best women's wrestler in the world. Maybe not only today, but of all time. Maybe not ever, but I mean, especially in the last couple of years. I've only seen parts of her work, so I can't definitely, say that with commitment that she is the best wrestler of all time. But I've seen enough of her work and heard enough of her work from people, from fans, from other fellow wrestlers that she is amongst the best of all time. So she's obviously doing a great job with the likes of Charlotte, Bayley, Paige, Emma, all these other great superstars down in NXT, Summer Rae, that have really made a splash, not only in NXT, but on the main roster in the last couple of years. So she's doing great in her role as a trainer. I am a little disappointed, sure, that she's not on the main roster doing what she, is great at in wrestling, obviously. But you got to think, I mean, you bring up Paige to the main roster, the whole feud with AJ, in my opinion, bombed. They completely mishandled it. And they'd probably mishandle her too, so she's probably better off as a trainer. And I know she can still go, obviously, at this stage of her career. It's not like she's retired or anything, or at least I don't think she is. A one-off match in NXT would be great. Like, I know William Regal, he's a trainer, he's commentated and whatever. But, even still, he's had a couple of, a handful of matches in NXT over the last couple of years against Cassius Ohno. I don't think Adrian Neville, but I know he did face the Wyatt family, Cesaro, on a great match on the Christmas episode last year. So, yeah, I do think she can have a one-off match in NXT or maybe even on the main roster, but as a full-length run, probably not, because like I said before, the whole purpose of bringing her in was as a trainer, from what I know anyway. Next question from Andre was, do you think TNA missed out on a Christopher Daniels world title reign? Yes, I do think they missed out on that. It's not like he was a big money world champion. Like, how much money can you draw as a world champion in TNA, honestly, at this point in time? But for everything that he did for the company alone, it was definitely deserving of a world title run. I mean, I know Eric Young. We've had this debate before. Great guy, great athlete, great, loyal employee of Impact Wrestling. He's been with them pretty much since the start, if not a little later on, like 2004. So yes, did he deserve a world title reign? Yes, he did. Did he really succeed as world champion? No, because for the longest time, TNA booked him like a comedy character. It's like giving the world title to Santino. He's been with the company for X amount of years. Yeah, sure, it's great. I mean, he's a great, loyal employee of your company, and he's a great worker. Take away all the bullshit of all the comedy stuff, and he's a great worker. But should he be the face of your company as the world champion? Absolutely not. So that's why I didn't really disagree, or I didn't really agree with Eric Young as world champion. And then his whole kind of reign was a fluke, and they took the title off him way too early. In the end, it was a flop, in my opinion. But that being said, if Eric Young could get a world title reign in TNA and Christopher Daniels couldn't, is ridiculous to me. It's like I can't remember his name right now, but there was that one individual that never won the X Division Championship. He comes in every once in a while. The name escapes me right now, but he's like the greatest X Division guy to never win that title. And Christopher Daniels is the equivalent in that sense, in that he has never won, or he never did win the TNA World title. I don't think. I mean, there is a chance that he could return to TNA at some point. For the most part, though, especially given what he said in the last couple of months about the company, the way they're run, the new direction they're apparently going in, I don't see him going back. Chances are that he will remain with ROH or go elsewhere. But that being said, though, I definitely do think they missed out on making Christopher Daniels world champion, because I think he's a great entertainer, he's a great wrestler, and there's so many occasions they could have put that world title on him, but they didn't. So in the end, that's their own fault. Jared B. from Facebook, his question was, seeing that Dean Ambrose will now be involved with Bray Wyatt, do you see Wyatt showing more aggressive side to his character during his feud with Ambrose and beyond? I do, hopefully. I mean, this is only one night removed from Hell in a Cell, so he could show up, singing and dancing and laughing tonight on Raw for all we know. I mean, I don't expect that. But, I mean, anything can change within an instant. Anything can change. I mean, like we saw, like the Wyatt family was so at the top of their game earlier this year. You fast forward to the summer, 8 days after SummerSlam, Bray Wyatt goes from getting a clean victory over a veteran, a legendary competitor in Chris Jericho, to pretty much being buried at the hands of John Cena, Big Show, Mark Henry on Raw. So anything can really change, like I said before. But hopefully, going off on his own, I like the aggression they showed last night in Hell in a Cell. Minus the whole hokey bullshit with the lantern and whatever. That was a bit dumb. But everything else, though, the fact that the way that he attacked Ambrose and all that kind of stuff, I thought that was cool. The facial expressions, the aggressive nature of his attack on Ambrose, the Lieutenant cringe, I thought was great. So hopefully we can see more of that side from Wyatt going forward. He's shown it before. This would not be the first time, but they kind of cooled off for the character going into summer after being so misutilized after losing the likes of John Cena a number of times in 2014. So hopefully that's not the same case with Wyatt going into the fall and beyond, like you said. So, at Andre Drace, his question was, do you think Dean Ambrose should face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania over Roman Reigns, since he is more over? Good question. No, because I think Roman Reigns is the more believable threat to Brock Lesnar in his title reign than Dean Ambrose is, given his size alone. Which match would be better? Probably Ambrose and Lesnar, since Roman Reigns is not the most polished wrestler in the world, or at least at this point in time. But that being said, though, they've been building up Roman Reigns as the next top star. Dean Ambrose, I mean, it's not like he's going to be pushed to the wayside when guys like Daniel Bryan and Reigns come back. He'll still be a top star. So that being said, though, I definitely think that Dean Ambrose is the more over of the two. Not by a long shot, but he definitely is more organically over, not being shoved down our throats. But that being said, though, it's not really a matter of who's more over. It's a matter of who makes the most money, who makes the most sense. As of right now, Roman Reigns makes the most sense with his size, the way that he's built up, the fact that he's a legitimate threat to Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose, not so much. So that being said, though, I do think they can have a very good match, whether it be Reigns, Ambrose, or whoever. No, I don't think. I mean, Dolph Ziggler is freaking over, but that doesn't mean he should be the one to beat Brock Lesnar for that world title at WrestleMania. It doesn't really all come down to who's more over. It's really, like I said before, all comes down to who makes more sense, who makes the most money, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of got to brush to the next, few questions. I don't have much time, so I apologize for not going more in depth. At Eli, the big guy, his question was, if Goldberg ever returns to the ring, who would you like to see him feud with? I would have said Ryback, but the match would probably suck. That Ryback makes the most sense, so I'll say Ryback. But right now in WWE, maybe a Roman Reigns, but given the spear and whatever, Ryback, like I said before, makes the most sense. The Goldberg chance, the match, like I said, would suck, like his match with Brock Lesnar from WrestleMania 20. But at least it would make sense from a storyline standpoint. It would be the big payoff to Ryback getting all these fucking terrible Goldberg chants over the last couple of years, which I always thought was bullshit. At Jaguar94 Abel, his question was, what device are you using to watch the WWE Network? He sent that to me before the pay-per-view, so maybe that's what he was talking about. But usually I just watch it on my phone, actually, believe it or not. I actually watch the network more so on my phone than I do on my laptop, because I can watch it on my phone. I put it in the corner of my screen on my laptop and work on whatever on the computer, so I can kind of multitask at the same time. But I think with the pay-per-view last night, my roommate was watching along with me, so I just kind of placed it near the TV on my laptop. So more often than not, I watch the network on my phone, but when I don't have anything going on, usually I just watch it on my laptop. At Swagzio, his question was, do you think Mojo Rawley should turn heel when he returns? Sure. I mean, the crowd is already turning on him anyway, so I don't really see any point in keeping him babyface. I mean, I like the enthusiasm, the whole get hyped, stay hyped, all that kind of thing. It's a great attitude to have, both in reality and in wrestling, whatever, but the fans weren't buying it. They were being force-fed bullshit. Usually in NXT, the officials, unlike on the main roster, they get the point. They see that they're being booed and organically turn them heel. They did that with Bo Dallas, CJ Parker. So hopefully they can do the same thing with Mojo Rawley when he comes back from his injury. At Brad Brodar, his question was, who do you think the top 5 current WWE divas, including NXT, in terms of in-ring ability? In no real specific order, AJ, Paige, Natalya, Emma, and Bayley. Charlotte really came in a close 5th, a close number 5. I mean, she's still getting there. She's a great wrestler and has improved immensely in the last year or so since she first debuted in NXT. But I do think Bayley is the better in-ring competitor of the two at this point in time. Still great, though. Next question, also from Brad. Why do you think the WWE decided to drop the ball with Big E? Good question. I mean, I thought he had potential, but they probably just had him fizzle out. He always should have had that, the 5-count gimmick. He should have had that from the moment he turned babyface in the main roster. It was so freaking over on NXT. And just because it's over on NXT doesn't mean it's going to be over on the main roster. See Emma, for example. I mean, that's not technically her fault. She was paired with Santino right off the bat. But just because it's over in NXT does not mean it's going to translate well to the main roster. So that being said, Big E, they should have given him more to work with as a babyface. They've given Mike time, allow him to show the charisma that he shows in all these backstage app videos and on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And he probably would have been more over, and he probably could have got a better, end of the stick as opposed to him being, having dropped the IC title and falling off the face of the earth. I did think he had a lot of potential. I mean, the world's not over for him, but he could be booked better, obviously, in my opinion. At WeGaza, I'm sorry. 487, his question was, why do you think The Rock has yet to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame? I was always wondering the same thing. People are always say, oh, induct the Macho Man. Of course, I always induct the Macho Man. No disrespect to him. Induct this guy, induct that guy. What about The Rock? I mean, Stone Cold and The Rock were in WWE for the same period of time, and Stone Cold was in the Hall of Fame 5 years ago. They probably knew Stone Cold was never going to wrestle again, so I know they kind of like to wait until people are officially retired. For the most part, like Ric Flair, I know he was retired. He was inducted like 1 day, one night before he was officially retired in WWE, that is. I mean, I know he wrestled over in TNA and elsewhere, whatever. But I know they like to wait until they're officially done with wrestling. So maybe if he wrestles one more match at WrestleMania 31, maybe they induct him that same weekend. I think that'd be great. So that's the closest thing I can come to explaining that away. At Reborn Again, his question was, did you think the show would get as popular as it has? No, I did not. I never thought it would get as popular as this. I only thought I was only going to be doing this for the summer of 2013, and then I had to stop in the fall of 2013 because I was busy with college and all this other kind of stuff. I couldn't really balance it out well at the time. But I did start doing in the beginning of this year, and I've been doing it every single week since. So that being said, I did not think we would get to 50 episodes. So definitely goes to see that you should not always expect the unexpected when it comes to anything in life, not just wrestling. But that being said, though, I always appreciate the support from you guys and helping me get to episode 50. Because without you guys, the show is nothing pretty much. His next question was, how do you feel about a Bray and Dean feud? Kind of already talked about it before, but it has the potential to be very, very good if they're given the opportunity to have the promos that they're capable of in the matches. Same thing can be said for that too. I think the matches, the promos, the segments, the interaction between the two, the psychology could be amazing if handled correctly. Like I said before, seeing it on paper and seeing it pan out are two completely different things. It's all about how WWE utilizes these two guys in this feud. Both guys need wins right now. Bray Wyatt is heavily damaged coming off the summer. He needs a win. Dean Ambrose hasn't won a pay-per-view match in forever. He needs a win. He hasn't won a pay-per-view match, I think, since Payback when he beat Evolution. So on his own, he has yet to win a singles match on pay-per-view. So that being said, I do think both guys need wins, but the feud itself should be great if handled properly, like I said before. At Raw's Gibby, if you could bring back one wrestling promotion from the past, which one would it be? It all really comes down to WCW or ECW. I'd probably go with ECW because it was a lot different than WCW. A WCW would be the same thing as what WWE is right now with all the shit product, the 3-hour shows. It's a lot similar, but probably ECW because of the extreme nature. Would it get old in 2014? It probably would pretty quickly, but I mean, I'm only talking about those two promotions because I can't really speak for a lot of the the regional territories back in the day. I'm only talking about like the big companies like WCW and ECW, and of those two, I'd probably bring back ECW for the extreme matches, and at least it'd be an alternative to WWE. Like I said, it'd probably get old pretty quickly, but it'd still be fun to bring back, maybe even for a short period of time. At Chris Krieger, his question was, what are your top 5 oh baby boy moments in 2014 to this point? So basically what he's saying is my gimmick on Twitter is when I say oh baby boy on Facebook, whatever. When I get excited, I tweet out oh baby boy. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. So I was struggling actually even to name 5. I mean, there's not really been. I know there's been a lot of shocking moments. Oh baby boy is usually reserved for the great moments, like amazing moments in WWE. Not like when the Ultimate Warrior died. I didn't say oh baby boy. Usually it's for like the positive stuff, not the negative stuff. Not like when not like when CM Punk left or when Undertaker's streak was broken. I was just shocked. I wasn't like excited. So probably Paige winning the Divas title the night after WrestleMania. The Rock returning a couple of weeks ago. I thought that was like definitely an oh baby boy worthy moment. I did not see that coming. Cesaro winning the Battle Royal at WrestleMania. I'm kind of stretching here a little bit because there's not been many moments this year that have really excited me for the better. Like Brock Lesnar winning the title was great, but I mean that was kind of seen coming though. Like him dominating Cena, that was kind of worthy of an oh baby boy moment. I'm kind of looking back on it now, but Cesaro winning the Battle Royal at WrestleMania, that was definitely worthy of an oh baby boy. Ziggler winning the IC title at SummerSlam, definitely worthy of an oh baby boy. I did not see that coming. I mean, winning the title now, I mean, like even 2 months later does not mean anything because the title's changed so many times. But that was still a great moment. And of course, Jericho returning definitely takes a cake. I mean, here's Jericho. Here's 2, 3, 4, 5. Jericho at number 1 is you can't beat it because I was there in attendance in Hartford the night after Money in the Bank. Easily one of my biggest, if not my biggest, markout moments, oh baby boy moments of all time. The final question comes from at Jeremy8911. His question was, do you think that they're wasting Cesaro with the way they've been booking him? Kind of, but like I said before, it's better off with him in these feuds with Ziggler, Sheamus, actually contending for titles. Yes, he's losing these title matches, but at least he's winning more matches now than he was a couple months ago when he couldn't win a match to save his life. So I do think they could be booking him better. I wouldn't say they're completely wasting him, but obviously he's capable of much more, as we saw earlier this year, and hopefully they can turn a babyface at some point, because that's where he's most over, as a babyface with the Cesaro swing. People can get into that so easily, so hopefully WWE comes to their senses and turns a babyface at some point within the very near future. So with that being said, always appreciate you guys sending in the questions. Thank you for making episode 50 as special as it is. And like I said before, without the questions, the liking, the subscribing, all that kind of stuff, without sharing these videos and spreading the word and all that kind of stuff, this show would be nothing. This show would have stopped at episode 2 if that was the case. So all these great questions every single week make this as great of a show as it is. So for that, I thank you guys, really do appreciate it, and look forward to the next 50, 100, 200 episodes of #AskJSM going forward. So with that said, with that being said, if you want to send in a question, you can find me on Facebook at Graham's Jason Matthews. Leave a question on the page itself, or you can comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights. You can tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the #AskJSM, or you can even leave a comment down below, and it'll be a feature in next week's video just like that. It's as simple as that. So like I said before, guys, thank you for making episode 50 a historic, monumental occasion. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll be back next week with another #AskJSM video. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you guys then.